Okay, so this is a Mini Cooper 2011 model, the regular Mini Cooper. Now the problem with this one is that the radiator was not turning on, and as a result the coolant system was under a lot of pressure and the reservoir was being emptied a lot quicker than it should have been because the radiator fan wasn't turning on. Okay, so the symptom of that was, you can see some coolant on the back here, so the coolant was leaking out, and then that resulted in the reservoir emptying a lot quicker. Then I realized the fan wasn't working. Okay, went into the fuse box and had a look at that. The fuse box had this relay switch over here. I did some tests, double checked the wiring, so that's the one coming from the radiator into the fuse box. Okay, so that was the other thing. So yeah, that was the problem on this one, and then I'll show you in the video how I troubleshooted, especially when it comes to the temperature sensor. You can see some fluid here as well, some calciated fluid, and that was probably likely because the system was under pressure, because that temperature sensor here is running directly into the coolant system, and it was probably overflowing under pressure. So in the video you'll see me go through the details again, and it's been having some cooling issues, so the radiator tank is always empty of coolant. So the first thing you want to do is to check the radiator. Another thing is, we noticed that the radiator fan wasn't turning on, especially if you're in traffic, the AC's on, things like that. The first thing you want to do is check your fuse box, and then here it has clearly labeled what the fuses are for and the relay switches. So this relay switch was actually in this slot here, but I just swapped it around, so it was in R2 but not in R1, so that's a problem there. I think that's for the high speed and that's for the low speed. Okay, so I double checked the fuse already, so that's the fuse, that's the R8 F8 fuse for that one. As you can see here, just check that one, the fuse was good. So I took the relay switch from here, put it in here, and then I removed the temperature sensor off of that, and that's just a quick flick off with something like a flathead, so that disconnects the temperature sensor, and that's dipped in some coolant right there. You can see that's coming from there, that's part of the cooling system going all the way around to here, so that's some coolant. It checks the temperature coming in for cooling the engine. Yeah, so you want to disconnect that as well, just so you can do a quick set test for that to come on. Okay, so we go ahead and start up the engine now, and then you can hear the fan blowing over, and then I'll plug the temperature sensor in and you can see that go off. Jump in, do your start up, turn your SC on, jump back under the engine, temperature sensor out, and then you can hear that, you can hear and see that's running now. So relay switch was the problem, so that's a missing relay switch. You should have two of them in, and then once you pop that back in, temperature sensor back in, you should shut that off. Okay, so that shuts off now. Fan is slowing down, should come to a complete stop. Okay, so that's stopped now. So in this scenario, it was actually the fuse that was missing, that I've swapped these two around. So that was here on the diagram you can see R3 and R4 for various speeds. Okay, so just double check that.